Hello guys, my name is Mira Rahmawati. In this time, I will explain to you about some material in language learning assessment. Okay, without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, the first material about assessing reading. Genres of reading. The first is academic reading. Academic reading includes general interest article like magazine and newspaper, and then technical report like lab report, professional journal article, and then there are textbooks, thesis, essays, paper, text direction, and opinion writing. The second is job-related reading. Job-related reading includes message like phone message, and then letters or emails, then memos, report like job evaluation and project report, and then schedule, labels, and announcement, forms, application, and questionnaires, and then financial document, and lastly is directories. The third is personal reading. Personal reading includes newspapers and magazine, and then there are letters, emails, greeting card, and invitation, and then message, notes, list, schedule like schedule trains, bus, plane, and etc. And then menus map, and then calendar, advertisement, novel, short stories, and drama, also poetry. And then financial document, from questionnaires, medical report, immigrant document, and lastly is comic strip and cartoon. The next is designing assessment task. The first is perceptive reading, yaitu kegiatan reading yang isinya itu memahami sesuatu atau mencari tahu. Jadi kegiatan ini biasanya melibatkan identifikasi kata, tanda baca, dan lain-lainnya untuk mencocokkan suatu gambar. Nah, designing assessment task untuk reading ini meliputi reading aloud, written response, multiple choice, and picture code item. Dan jenis reading yang kedua ada selective reading. Selective reading ini adalah aktivitas reading yang berfokus pada bentuk kata dan aspek gramatikal bahasa. Designing assessment task untuk reading yang ini meliputi multiple choice, kemudian ada matching task, advantage and disadvantage, ada juga editing task, picture code task juga ada, kemudian gap filling task. Dan reading yang ketiga yaitu interactive reading. Interactive reading ini adalah kegiatan membaca yang menggunakan pengetahuan tentang struktur kata dan pengetahuan untuk menginterpretasikan teks yang siswa baca. Kemudian designing assessment task untuk reading jenis ini meliputi close task, kemudian ada impromptu reading plus comprehension, ada juga short answer task, and ordering task. Yang keempat ada intensive reading. Kegiatan ini melibatkan konsentrasi pembaca, konsentrasi siswa tersebut untuk memahami informasi secara rinci dari teks. Nah, fokus dalam membaca intensif ini adalah bahasa dan juga fitur gramatikal. Kemudian yang terakhir ada extensive reading. Fokus dalam membaca ekstensif ini biasanya adalah pesan yang disampaikan oleh penulis kepada si pembaca. Nah, kemudian untuk designing assessment task meliputi skimming task, ada juga summary and responding, and lastly is note taking and outlining. The second material about assessing grammar. 5 characteristics to measure communicative grammar include: the first, the test must provide more context than only a single sentence. And the second, the test taker should understand what the communicative purpose of the test is. And the third, he or she should also know who the intended audience is. And then he or she must have to focus on meaning and not form to answer correctly. And the lastly is recognize is not sufficient. The test taker must be able to produce grammatical responses. And then alternative assessment for grammar include games, split sentences, sentences from pictures, memory test, picture dictation, and then strip stories, miming an action, growing stories, questionnaires, and classroom observation with elicited dialogue and written exercise. Okay, the next material about assessing writing. Genres of writing. The first is academic writing, include essay, composition, journal, and thesis. And the second, job-related writing, include memo, message, report, and announcement. And the third is personal writing, include letter, email, greeting card, and diary and notes. Okay, the next about designing assessment task. The first is designing assessment task in imitative writing. The first task in handwriting letter, word, and punctuation with copying, listening close selection task, and then picture code task, from completion tasks and converting numbers and abbreviation to word. And the second way is spelling tasks and detecting phoneme grapheme correspondences with spelling tests, picture code tasks, and then multiple choice and matching phonetic symbols. And the next is designing assessment tasks in intensive writing. The first way with dictation and dictocom, and then grammatical transformation tasks, and lastly is picture code tasks. And the last one is designing assessment tasks in responsive and extensive writing with paraphrasing, guided question and answer, and paragraph construction tasks. Okay friends, let's continue to our material about assessing speaking. Basic types of speaking include, the first is imitative speaking. Imitative speaking is the ability to simply parrot back or imitate a word or phrase or possibly a sentence. Jadi imitative speaking ini adalah kemampuan hanya sekedar menirukan kembali sebuah kata atau frasa atau bahkan sebuah kalimat. Yang kedua ada intensive speaking. Intensive speaking demonstrate competence in an array of grammatical, phrasal, lexical, or phonological relationship. Yang ketiga ada responsive speaking. Responsive speaking include interaction and task comprehension, but at the somewhat limited level of very short conversation, standard greeting and small talk, simple request and comment, and the like. Kemudian yang keempat ada interactive speaking. Tipe speaking ini tidak jauh berbeda dengan tipe responsive speaking. Perbedaannya, tipe interactive speaking ini konteksnya jauh lebih luas, panjang, dan pembahasannya sudah lebih kompleks lagi. Kemudian yang terakhir ada extensive speaking. Extensive speaking include speeches, oral presentation, and storytelling. Okay, the next is speaking assessment task. The first is imitative speaking assessment task with word repetition task and phone pass test. And the second is intensive speaking assessment task with directed response task, read aloud task, sentence or dialogue completion task, and oral questionnaires, picture code task, and translation. And the third is responsive speaking assessment task with question and answer, giving instruction and direction, paraphrasing, and test of spoken English. And then interactive speaking assessment task with interview, role play, discussion and conversation, games, and oral proficiency interview. And lastly is extensive speaking with oral presentation, picture code storytelling, retelling a story and news event, and lastly is translation. Okay friends, the last material I will explain to you about assessing listening. The importance of listening. Listening is often implied as a component of speaking. How could you speak of language without also listening? Therefore, we need to pay close attention to listening as a model of performance for assessment in a classroom. And the next is the objectives of listening assessment. The first is comprehending of surface structure elements such as phonemes, words, intonation, and grammatical category. Types of designing assessment task is intensive listening. Okay, designing assessment task in intensive listening. Recognizing phonological and morphological elements. The first is phonemic pair consonant. Contohnya bisa dilihat di sini. Kemudian yang kedua ada morphological pair ed ending. Contohnya bisa dibaca di sini. Dan yang ketiga ada one word stimulus. Contohnya seperti ini. Kemudian di objektif yang kedua yaitu understanding of pragmatic context, and we can design this objective by using responsive listening. Okay, the next is designing assessment in responsive listening. The first is appropriate response to a question. Contohnya dilihat di sini. And the third objective is determining meaning of auditory input. The type of this part is selective listening. And the designing assessment task in selective listening is listening clues, information transfer with multiple picture cue selection, single picture cue verbal multiple choice, and card filling. And the next objective is developing the skills a global or comprehensive understanding. The type of this part is extensive listening. And designing assessment tasks in extensive listening are dictation, communicative stimulus response tasks with dialogue and multiple choice comprehension item, and with dialogue and authentic questions on details. Okay friends, That's all from me. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye. Astagfirullah, Pete. And the second, the test takers should understand what the contraceptive. Pete.